Well, good morning. It's a beautiful Friday morning and had a lot of thoughts about what's been going on over the past 72 hours with regard to the raid on President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. So we're going to kind of go through this together, unpack it a little bit. And I'm really excited to read your comments in the comments section. I want your feedback on this. I've got lots of thoughts racing through my head. Some I can articulate and some I can't, but I'm interested in your feedback and what you have to say. So make sure you leave me some comments today. Also, please make sure that you're sharing these videos. It's the only way we have to get the word out that we're here. We certainly know that YouTube doesn't do anything to build our algorithm, and I thank you for your help in letting people know that yours truly, the afternoon drive, is here. And then let me also say this, and it's my one and only shameless plug commercial I'll give, because I don't sell merch. I don't spend a lot of time hawking other people's products here. But I do more than just this format. I have an actual radio talk show that I do. I am a pastor, but I have something else that I don't ever really talk about here. I am an oldies DJ. When I say oldies, I don't mean what oldies radio stations today call oldies. I do 1950s, pre-Beatles, 1960s, original era rock and roll. It's 2 hours. It's called the Sunday Matinee, and it is set in the theme of a drive-in movie theater, complete with drive-in movie announcements and trailers and retro commercials from the past, as well as all the great jingles that some of you might remember from Top 40 radio back in the day. And those of you that have never heard it before, it's a fun 2 hours. I do this every weekend. It's called the Sunday Matinee. The simplest way is Sunday afternoons, 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock, local 840, local840.com. You can stream it. You can stream it through Alexa. You can stream it through Simple Radio. If you go to the Sunday Matinee Radio Facebook page, you'll see a listing of all the stations that I'm on. I'm on in New York City. I'm on in Cincinnati. I'm on in Cleveland. We're on in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. We literally are covering the East Coast. I'd like to get out on the West Coast, so if some of you have a friend or a connection, I'd love to talk to them about getting out on the West Coast. But obviously, we cover the planet via the internet and some internet radio stations as well. We're on in Philadelphia. So check it out, the Sunday Matinee, and that's yours truly, known as Marty B. All right, commercials are over. Please make sure that you're still subscribed to this channel and give us a thumbs up when this is over. Did Donald Trump set up the FBI? I want you to think about that for a moment. Did Donald Trump set up the Department of Justice? You know, we're watching a lot of this back and forth now. Now, one thing we do know is that the president was out of town, and according to the inside sources, it was the general decision in the FBI that if they made this raid while Trump was out of town, it wouldn't draw the kind of media attention that it drew. Well, of course, it's going to draw media attention. This is Donald Trump we're talking about here. So then there was this speculation that because immediately the backlash across the country was fast and fierce, and that's not made up. And now the first polls coming out of this are showing just how badly, when it comes to PR and people feeling safe about America and can we still trust America. And I don't think the White House, the Department of Justice, or the FBI, I think what they love to play checkers. And they don't understand that Donald Trump, for all of his vibrato, a lot of it is an act. Because you listen to so many of his critics who think he's dumb, he's stupid, he's reckless and careless with his comments and with his mouth, and yet he is constantly 5 moves ahead of them. And not because he's a 3D checkers player, he's a 4D chess player. And he constantly sets these guys up and And it's like literally they walk into it every time. And listening to them try to take victory laps right now is like Wile E. Coyote thinking that he captured the Roadrunner. I keep waiting for the anvil they just launched at Roadrunner to land on themselves, and landing hard it is. And so there was speculation over the previous 24 hours, and a lot of my conservative compadres on radio and in alternative media were all saying, aha, see, it's obvious that they're going to make Mike Ray take the fall for all of this, and Christopher Wray to take the fall for all of this, and the Department of Justice is, they're running for cover. And then Merrick Garland comes out yesterday afternoon and basically said, I signed off on it. This was my decision. And we'll try to get permission to release the details of the warrant. Immediately, Twitter blew up, and Twitter went overtime. Donald Trump is never going to allow that warrant to be released. He's lying, and he's covering up, and he's hiding evidence, and he'll never allow that warrant to be released. Then, a few hours later on Truth Social, Donald Trump said, I absolutely want the warrant released immediately. This was an unwarranted, un-American, unnecessary attack on my home, my privacy. So now to all you libloons, what you got to say now, huh? Oh, immediately they sprang into action and said, well, his legal team will step in and say, well, the president may want that warrant released, but for legal reasons, we can't allow it to be. Doesn't matter. Donald Trump is the homeowner. The warrant was issued on his home. He has the authority to say, release it. And it doesn't really matter what his legal team thinks or wants. But I want to go in a different direction with all of this. Because conservative media for the past 24 hours has been theorizing that, of course, the White House knew about this. Come on, Joe Biden didn't know about it. Give me a break. He may have forgotten. That's more about dementia than him necessarily lying right now. And the fact that Jean-Pierre Van Damme, or whatever her name is, the new press secretary, who verbally can't get out of her own way, she will not give a straight up yes or no answer to Peter Doocy's question. Did the White House know about this beforehand? We're not going to comment on an ongoing Department of Justice investigation. I'm not asking you to comment on their investigation. I'm asking to know, did you know before the raid was going to happen, We're just not going to. You're not answering my question. I am answering your question. You just don't like the answer I'm giving because you want a yes or no, and it's not a yes or no question. Yes, it is. So you take that immediately as Joe Biden knew. Merrick Garland came out and, watching that little pencil neck try to be John Wayne is almost laughable. No, in fact, it is laughable. All right, Pilgrim, I authorized that warrant, and we sent him in. That's the end of it. That's not the end of it, because I think Donald Trump set you all up. Glenn Beck, and I'm not a big Glenn Beck fan at all, but Glenn Beck has been theorizing earlier in the week, and I think he is right about this, that they keep doing these things knowing full well they really can't get at Trump, but it's almost like they're trying to stir up the crazos that are part of the right, the real, militants that are out there, literally trying to get them stirred up. They want another insurrection. Well, they want an insurrection because what happened on January 6th was not. But, they want us to act stupid, which is why I keep telling you, don't do stupid. Don't play into their hands. I think two things went on here from their point of view. I think number one, obviously, they were on a fishing expedition. Even the left-leaning media admits that they really didn't have anything when it came to, he's got documents he's not supposed to have. That doesn't even pass the laugh test, especially since as the president, he can unclassify any document that he chooses. And even left-leaning outlets like the New York Times and other left progressives are even saying, yeah, you really can't make that argument when you consider that Hillary Rodham Clinton, not only was sending all types of classified information back and forth over an unsecured private server, but somebody raised this question yesterday and I thought was excellent. Who helped her do that? It wasn't, even though that she hired this fly-by-night mom and pop, server company to, put the server in her bathroom. Somehow, the actual network that gets carried by the federal government handling classified top secret stuff on all of their own servers, somehow access into that was granted to this private server, and information from there was transferred onto that private server. Who did that? Bill and Hillary certainly didn't. Did the FBI? Bum-ba-dum-bum. Did the cybersecurity of the FBI facilitate Hillary? Which is why at the time, they said, we've looked into this and there's nothing here that a prosecutor would. Was James Comey trying to know that this would become a big campaign issue about Hillary's server? So he fakes an investigation into something that he already knew the answer to because he already knew the FBI helped her do this? Most Americans get that's a real crime. That's a real problem. And nothing was done about it. Nothing. So now we're going to go after the president over menus for presidential dinners. Apparently, that's been released by the New York Times. That's some of the stuff that the FBI walked out of Mar-a-Lago with. Menus from dinner receptions, notes that President Trump scratched on cocktail napkins while, talking to people. This is the big top security threat to America. And listening to Dick Cheney, that disgusting warlord who ought to be drooling on himself in a secured nursing home prison cell, talk about Donald Trump as the biggest threat to our nation. Really? Bigger than Jefferson Davis, who actually took up arms against the United States? The over-the-top hyperbole that always gets used with Donald Trump is just unconscionable. So I think what they thought was, going into this, we're going to raid his home. This is going to be a bad PR for Trump, and people will say he's really under investigation. Of course, that'll fire up the liberals. That'll fire up the media. This man is a criminal. He cannot be near the Oval Office ever again. Yada, 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 yada. Did Donald Trump set him up the whole time? Because one thing, love him or hate him, even if you think he is a fraudulent businessman, he's never really made the kind of money that he says he's made, yada, yada, yada. One thing you can't deny, he is a phenomenal marketer. He has branded and brand messaged himself better than any modern icon. Seriously. He's been kind of out of the news loop for a while. Boy, isn't he back in full time now. The media can't talk about anything but. And what was the liberal media talking about all day yesterday, prior to Merrick Garland's big 4-minute speech? An informant, someone close to Trump, an informant. And that very well could be. Was the informant a setup? Bum-ba-dum-bum. As a pastor, I can tell you this, that there are two sides to the ministry. There's the spiritual side, where you are obviously dealing with the spiritual needs of people. You are conducting church services where the idea is for people to gather, to worship, and then to receive instruction from the Word of God that helps them in their everyday lives and helps them with their emotions and dealing with the stress and all that goes into life from a spiritual perspective. That's one part of the ministry. Being with people who are grieving the loss of a family member, being with a family in an emergency room after, one of their young people has just had an accident. That's all one part of the ministry. There is another part of the ministry. And I don't mean it the way like a TV evangelist, hawking miracles for money, but there is a business side of the ministry. In other words, ministries have to do business. They have to raise money. They've got light bills to pay and mortgages to pay and staff to pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's that aspect, the business side of the ministry. You got to have money for the equipment that you use and the materials that you give out and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And on that side, yeah, there can even be, don't tell anyone I said this, I'm letting you in on the inside of a pastor's secret, there can be a little politics that get played, because sometimes a couple of board members will think, I don't know why we got to be spending money on that. And you'll have somebody in the church that starts complaining about, well, I don't know why we are starting this new ministry and we dropped this other one that I really liked. I was the only one that ever came to it, but I really liked it, so I don't know why we're doing this new one. I learned a long time ago from an old pastor who was retiring, and he was kind of my mentor, and he said to me one day, he said, value the effectiveness of a controlled leak. And I asked him what he meant by that. He said, you're going to have certain people, he said, they just can't help but talking, wanting people to think that they know things about you, know things about what goes on in the inner workings of your ministry. He said, find out who they are and then feed them the information you want them to leak. Now, if an old pastor can pass the piece of information like that on to a young pastor, again, love him or hate him, Donald Trump made an awful lot of money in the New York State real estate, in the New York City real estate market. You don't think he knows how to do business? Remember, now he to this day denies that, he used to one time call up the New York Times and other publications, to their gossip and social pages and talk about, Donald Trump and what he was up to. Mr. Trump, is this you? No, this is not me. Well, listen to the tapes. It's pretty obvious it's Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump, knowing full well that if an informant told the FBI, the Department of Justice, Trump has documents in a safe that he's not supposed to have, bump, bump, because remember, the safe was empty. And Eric Trump has already let it out. The security cameras were not turned off. It's one of the first things the FBI did when they got to Mar-a-Lago. They ordered all of the security cameras to be shut off. And the security team turned off the monitors, while the cameras and the tape, or I would probably say at this point, the digital imprint of what was going on was all still recording. Did Trump do this to be able to spring into action and show America the FBI, under now the admitted direction of the Attorney General, ransacking his house? Because remember when he first talked about back in 2016 that they had illegally wiretapped him at Trump Tower, and everybody laughed, they lampooned him. PMSNBC and CNN were constantly talking about this maniac cannot be president. He thinks the FBI is spying on him. What a liar. And then 2 years into his administration, they finally fessed it up. Yeah, they did it. Did he set him up and record it? So he now has proof to the world, look what they did. Because remember, when this all first happened, a lot of Republicans were very silent. A few of the, hardcore Trump supporters up on Capitol Hill, this is awful, this is terrible. Then one at a time, even the more moderate ones started coming out. The McCarthy came out and said, we got to have an investigation of this. Bitch McConnell even finally opened up his, turtle lips and said, we're getting a full accounting of what happened here. And now you've got every Republican is on board with, because they're seeing the internal polling data, that this did not go any way the Democrats thought it was going to go before the midterms. I personally believe Donald Trump set him up. In fact, I'm absolutely 150% convinced of it. He set them up. Another 4D chess move from the master himself when it comes to this type of operation. I want to know what you think about it. Leave me some comments below. Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to check out the Sunday Matinee if you like original era rock and roll, 1950s, pre-Beatles, 1960s. I think you'll find the show fun. And again, I will post a link to how you can find out where that show is available and at what times.